So let's start with a recap of what we already know about waves and, more importantly, about sound waves. So there are 5 questions. See if you can answer them. Number 1, what is the amplitude of a sound wave? Number 2, what property of a sound wave does amplitude affect? Number 3, what is the wavelength of a sound wave? And 4, what property of a sound wave does wavelength affect? And finally 5, how does the hearing range of a dog differ from that of a bat? It may help you to draw out some diagrams to be able to label the amplitude and the wavelength of a wave. So pause the video, have a go, and then come back and see what the answers are. So let's see if you got them correct. So to help us answer questions 1 and 3, the amplitude and the wavelength of a wave, it's useful to draw out a diagram. So this is the diagram for a transverse wave, and it is how we can show a lot of waves. We can even turn our speech into one of these waves using a microphone and an oscilloscope. So the amplitude is the maximum height of the wave from this middle position, which you can call equilibrium. So it's from equilibrium and either to the peak or the crest at the top, or even underneath this middle line down towards the trough. So it's this height. The wavelength of the wave is just the length of one wave. This can either be from peak to peak, from trough to trough, or from the very, very start of the wave to the next wave. Okay, so one wave starts here, goes up, down, and then back to the start. That is where the wave repeats, and so that is then the length of one wave. Now the wavelength and the amplitude, they vary depending on how loud the sound is or how high or low pitched the noise is as well. So the loudness of the sound depends on the amplitude. If the amplitude is bigger, then the sound is louder. The pitch of the sound depends on its frequency, which in turn depends on its wavelength. The shorter the wavelength or the higher the frequency, the more the waves are squashed up together, and that gives you a higher pitched sound. If the waves are further apart, if they are longer, if they have a greater wavelength or a lower frequency, then you get a lower note. And finally, the last question was all about hearing ranges. Now, humans have a hearing range of between 20 to 20,000 hertz or 20 kilohertz. Anything above 20 kilohertz, you might remember, is called ultrasound. Dogs hear between 40 and 60,000 hertz, and bats hear between 3,000 and 120,000 hertz. Bats can hear a lot higher pitched noises compared to both dogs and humans. But dogs can hear lower pitched noises compared to bats. Anything between 40 and 3,000 hertz, dogs can hear, but bats can't. Today's session is all about how we can actually detect this sound, so how our ears work. So by the end of this session, you should be able to describe how the ear works, how your hearing can be damaged, and how a microphone can be used to detect sound. It has a lot of similar features to the human ear. So first we're going to watch a video to describe how the ear works.
The ears collect sounds and turn them into messages for the brain to interpret. They also send information about balance to the brain. 3 sections of the ear work together to make this happen. They are the outer ear, the middle ear, and the inner ear. The outer ear is made up of the pinna and the ear canal. These parts gather sounds from the environment and funnel them into the middle ear. The middle ear takes these sounds and turns them into vibrations. Sounds that come into the middle ear hit the eardrum, causing it to move. The eustachian tube helps the eardrum to work well by keeping the air pressure balanced on both sides. When the eardrum moves, It makes three small bones called ossicles vibrate. The vibrations are then sent to the inner ear. The inner ear receives vibrations and changes them into messages that go to the brain. These messages are called nerve signals. The inner ear is made up of the cochlea and the vestibule, which includes the semicircular canals. The cochlea has fluid in it that moves like a wave. This happens when vibrations come in from the middle ear. The moving fluid causes hair cells to make nerve signals about sound. Semicircular canals also use moving fluid to create nerve signals that help with balance. Then, the signals from the cochlea travel along the auditory nerve. Signals from the semicircular canals go along the vestibular nerve. These two nerves come together and lead to the brain. There, the brain decodes the signals to get information about sound and balance.
So here is a diagram of the ear which shows all the main different features. You can see that there are some lines coming off certain parts of the ear. Hopefully, you might be able to remember what some of those parts are called. So let's see if you can. First, this outer bit of the ear. This is called the pinna, and this is what directs the sound waves directly into your ear. Those sound waves pass through this long tube here, which is called the auditory canal, or sometimes just called the ear canal. When the sound waves reach the eardrum will then vibrate. The eardrum can very easily be damaged. If noises are too loud, the eardrum can vibrate with a really large amplitude and it could be damaged. It could rip, it could tear, and then you may lose your hearing. It can fix itself, but sometimes the damage is irreparable. So when the eardrum vibrates, this eardrum is connected to three tiny little bones in the ear. These are called ossicles. So the eardrum vibrates and then the ossicles vibrate. So all of these vibrations are being passed through the ear. They eventually come to this section of the ear. This section of the ear contains both the cochlea, which is in a sort of snail-like shape, and also you have these semicircular canals. Now the semicircular canals are not for hearing, they are to help with your balance. So they have nerves in there which help with your balance, and the information from those gets sent to the brain. In the cochlea, there are tiny little hairs which vibrate. And when they vibrate, they turn those vibrations into an electrical signal which gets sent down the auditory nerve. This is the nerve which is connected to the brain, which will be able to translate those vibrations into a sound that you hear. Just like the eardrum, the little tiny hairs in the cochlea can get damaged as well. So they look a bit like this. So this is a microscope image. If these tiny hairs vibrate really quickly, they can get damaged. The longer you are alive, the more that these hairs are being subjected to vibrating and to oscillating. Those that are further into the ear, so those that are further in, just about here, these ones oscillate the quickest at a higher frequency, and those ones that oscillate at a higher frequency can get damaged more easily. If that happens over many, many years, such as in the cochlea of older people, then they stop being able to hear those really high-pitched noises. So younger people can hear high-pitched noises better than older people because of these tiny little hairs inside the cochlea. So let's see if you can put these statements into the correct order to describe how the ear works. So you can use the diagram to be able to create your own flow chart, to put these in the right order, because they're not at the moment, to describe how the ear works. So pause the video, have a go, arrange them into the right order, and then come back to check if you are correct. So let's see if you've got it right. Firstly, the sound waves are collected by the pinna. Then they travel through the ear canal, which remember is also called the auditory canal. Then the eardrum vibrates. The vibrations of the eardrum make the ossicles, the small bones, vibrate. And finally, those vibrations pass through the cochlea. The vibrations change to electrical signals, which are sent through the auditory nerve and to the brain. Now, microphones have a lot of similarities to our ears. Microphones will pick up sound that you make. And in a microphone, you have inside something called a diaphragm. It's just a bit of fabric. This vibrates. When this vibrates, it produces a current in this electrical coil here. So the movement produces a current. The current that flows through these wires will flow at a certain frequency, depending on the frequency that the diaphragm has vibrated with. It will turn that information into your electrical signal here. And that can be picked up by whatever you are speaking into. So for example, this can work with a telephone, a standard microphone, a headset. So there are quite a few similarities between a microphone and your ear. So this diaphragm is very much like your eardrum. So we've learned to say that the ear is made up of quite a few different parts: the pinna, the ossicles, semicircular canals, auditory canal, eardrum, cochlea, and the auditory nerve. Microphones and ears are very similar. They have a lot of similar properties and characteristics. And finally, your hearing can be damaged. Loud noises, puncturing of your eardrum can damage your hearing. Sometimes it's permanent, sometimes it can fix itself.